welcome to today's show. I'm going to start things off hot and heavy. If you do not have a copy of the book, The Invisible Ceiling, head over to legaledgecoaching.com and get a copy, or easier than that, you can click a link below in the description. That is the book that we are going through chapter by chapter here on the show. But before we dive into that, Shane, it has been a minute since you and I have sat in front of this microphone. How the hell are you, man?
It has. It's been busy. You know, I've had a, for somebody who's not supposed to be busy, I've been pretty busy, right? So like in April, we took the attorney trip, you know, for my top attorneys. They went on that trip. And then after we got back a week later, we took my wife to South Korea for her trip. I guess our anniversary trip is really what it is, because we've been married like 26 years. So we try to take a trip right around that time. The last couple of years, and then got back, and then it was graduation time for my kids, or my youngest. He graduated from college in 4 years, so we went and got him and did all the graduation stuff, and now we're back. And in between there, I think I've been to one or two 2 or 3 day business conferences. So it's been just a go the last little bit, which is exciting because you know, got some new ideas, got some stuff that has got me thinking, and you know, moving bigger and better is what I would say, right? Which is always cool.
Oh yeah, it's at the end of the day, somebody like you and somebody like our listeners who are growers and grinders, and you're always trying to build. There's always something, right? There's always something new. There's always something you're learning. Like, I think the idea and the narrative of like riding off quietly into the sunset and, you know, putting your toes in the beach for the rest of your life, in theory, sounds great, and I'm sure there's some people that would enjoy that. I am for sure not one of them. Doesn't mean I don't like to relax, but it's always.
No, you know, I was gonna say, Trevor, you know, you and I have worked together for a while, and you were my coach a bunch, and you know, for a while that was what I was trying to build towards, right? Yep. Is right off in the sunset, and then one day I was looking like, what would I do in the sunset, right? How do I not become fat and an alcoholic, right? Because that's, you know, you're at the beach just drinking margaritas all day. That's that version. Mm-hmm. And in the reality version, I was like, well, what would I really do? I mean, because would I go walk for an hour every morning and lift weights for 2 hours? I'm like, okay, but now it's like 11 o'clock. What's the rest of the day look like? Yeah. And I like video games, but I mean, there's only so much of that you can play, right? And
oh yeah, well I don't think we were meant. I really don't think we were meant to just sit around and get fat and be lazy. Like I don't think anyone was, but I think that's the lie, maybe, that we're sold. I don't know, but it's interesting because as we worked through, it was funny to watch because, you know, for probably the first 12 months that we were working together, I mean, that was the pursuit. It wasn't the pursuit to go get fat at the beach, but it was to pull back, right? It was like, okay, let's build this to this pullback, and you did. Like,
as a coach, I'm not sure. Maybe you failed, Trevor, because I'm not pulled back. I'm definitely in. So, I mean, you know.
I know. We failed. The mission was a fail, but I think that's in a good way, though, because I think what it did, I watched it, it exposed in you that you didn't want that. You're like, this isn't going to work. And because you've had some exit strategies, you've had exit opportunities.
Yeah.
You've had people present you that are like, hey, here's a window, take a big stack of cash, and you always say the same thing. You're like, well, what would I do?
What would I do? Right.
Like, what am I going to go do? Okay, so I have this. Well, then I'm going to just, I guess I could do work on the hobbies at home, like work on the, you know, building the house or whatever. Like, it's like,
I was going to say my hobby is reading business books and working at the law firm. So, I mean, that's a crappy hobby. I mean, other than coaching, I mean, you know, right now, I guess I could do that full time. Right. But,
but it's still work. Like it's not like you're sitting around doing nothing.
No, I mean, you know, it's interesting seeing the same problems we work through, you know, when we look at a firm and you're like, oh yeah, they got this problem. I did this. Yeah, this is a huge issue at this level. You know, these are the ceilings at these points, and working through those and helping people out. That's great and rewarding. Yeah. But it's, you know, it's, I'd say I only like to work with, you know, certain size folks kind of deal. So the pullback method didn't work well for me. We're all in at this point.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing that's crazy. I mean, it leads directly into the chapter we're in the book, chapter 3, and of today's conversation, which is this idea of being busy versus being productive, but really it's the amount of time and energy you spent, because what I've watched happen constantly is that attorneys will feel really busy, and so they will feel validated. They will feel like what they're doing matters. They'll feel like they should be making progress, but at the end of the day, week, month, and year, they don't actually make the progress they think they should have made, and the confusion is always, I worked 60 hours a week this whole year. How did I not progress? Like, how are my numbers the same? Like, how did the business not grow? And this is really what identifies, and I think it's a pretty common conversation, but I think it's one worth having, because if you get trapped in that loop, you kind of dig yourself into this corner of, there's no more time in the day. You can't, quote unquote, try harder. Like, there's not any amount of effort that you're going to put out that's going to somehow build you out, because typically the effort you're doing is actually going to do just more of the same thing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's worse because you make more effort, and if you're not real careful as the attorney, especially when you're, at a smaller size, when I'd say below like 4 attorneys, you'll do more effort, which creates more work for you. And a lot of times it'll be like, dude, I need another case manager. I need another paralegal. You hire them, which then creates what? More work for you. So it's like this horrendous cycle.
Yep.
And, there's a ceiling on how far you can go there before you start to fix things. I mean, and I think some people's ceiling may be a little higher than others, right? I mean, some people are just better puppet masters, is what I say. But there's definitely a ceiling. And, yeah, you look up and, the season, because this is the lie we say, right? Like, it's just for 3 months. It's just for 6 months, babe. Next year will be better, right? I mean, I've had those conversations. I think most of our listeners have probably had those conversations where you tell your spouse, yeah, it's just for right now. Once we get things going, it'll be better. And better never comes.
It literally never shows up. And then the problem is, you actually do get you can hustle yourself to some success.
You can.
Some success.
100%.
Right?
I did.
And that becomes the problem, because when you've done that, you've relied on you, which is great, but you've never built yourself into these productive narratives that you're moving towards a mapped outcome.
Yeah.
And to actually build a process with the people and the teams and have that work. So you end up having success, so you're making money. So on the surface, you look like you're doing well. You've got a nice home. You've got some nice cars. Your kids are in private school. Like, all these things, because you think. But what's happened is you've built yourself to where you now are addicted to that life. Yeah. So the idea of, well, I need to maybe pull back, recenter, refocus, and remap. Just even the idea of pulling back seems like, well, I can't do that.
Yeah, it seems like a failure. I mean, honestly.
I'm sitting on a call with a guy on Monday, and I looked at him. I'm like, dude, maybe you need to sell your house.
Yeah. And
he looked at me, and he was just like, he paused, and he's like contemplating what I had actually just said, and he's like, how do I tell my wife? Like, I'm like, I hear you, but something's got to give, because you have built yourself to the red line of your life, and you're literally going to die because the way you're pushing yourself. And it's not that you're not a hard worker. He's one of the hardest working people I know. I mean, dude won't stop. But you have to stop at some point. Like, there's this it doesn't work.
I remember, and I'd hired people, right? And I'd even had some systems in place, and like, in our chapter 3, we're talking about, that was the big thing, is like not taking the lead call, right? A prospective client, not taking that. I skipped over that, right? Like, I knew at some point I couldn't take every call, but I remember the conversation with my wife when I was like, hey, I need to hire another senior attorney to work in the firm to handle a bunch of this stuff. And, the way I knew to entice him is to give him a profit sharing. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, well, I need to do this because, I had like 3 weekends off this year, babe. And she's like, I know. I didn't tell you not to do it. And I said, well, I think we may take a hit on money. And she goes, well, I would like to see my husband some. That was that was literally the conversation, is that right there. Like, okay, she'd missed me that year, kind of deal. And much less vacations. I mean, that was crazy. She was just looking for weekends.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is, I made that shift, and I made just as much money the next year. Mm-hmm. And then the year after that, I made more money, right, kind of deal. So as soon as I got that bandwidth, but it was that was my fear going in. I'm going to make less money. and it didn't work. It's not true. Just kind of
No,
like in our story, the person loses the lead. That happens, but then they build a firm and they make more money.
Yep. Yep. It's a contraction. It looks like a contraction, but it's actually not. Dude, but when I started my company, it was the same way. I was gone. I was traveling a ton to get the company off the ground, and I was gone 42 weeks out of that year. 42. Yeah. There's only 52 weeks in a year. And I wasn't even physically there, so it's not even like you could say, well, I was home at night. At least I slept by my wife. Nope. I was in the Hilton or the Hampton. One of those two hotels. Those were my jam. And that was it. That's where I lived.
10 weeks you were at home, Trevor. I mean,
Oh, yeah. So I was plenty, right? I should be, but everyone should be happy with it. But what's crazy is I realized that hustle was great. And that same thing, I realized I'm going to lose my marriage. And this would have been my second marriage. I was already on my second marriage. And so I would have ended up getting divorced again. I knew it. I saw the writing on the wall. And it wasn't like it was imminent right then, but I was like, this pattern isn't going to work. And yes, we were making money, and that was the hard part. And anytime I went out, I made money. And so it was like, well, and I didn't realize yet at that time that I wasn't actually being very productive, and that the best use of my time was not doing that I could hire somebody to do that, and I could sit back and actually create more of that. But there was this weird, I didn't want to contract, I didn't want to pull, but the exact same scenario as you, Shane, I pulled back and I made more money. And then I'm sitting at home, and I remember dealing with other emotions, now dealing with guilt because I'm making more money while I'm not actually going out and doing the work that
well, that's a different issue. Yeah, that's a whole conversation about you not actually doing the work, but you finding the work, you managing the systems, you supervising and delegating it, and you making more money than when you were working, or the person doing the work.
Yep, and it's a weird psychological thing. But there's this statement I have with busy, right? Because that's really what we're talking about is people that just get themselves busy. They work really hard, and they're doing lots of things, and they're hustling through their inefficiencies, right? Lack of systems, work harder, right? I actually have taken the word, anytime I hear someone say the word busy or, and I don't know why that's a cliche way of saying, hey, so how you been? Busy, man, busy, right? People just say that. It's like a badge of honor. That I don't know if that insinuates that they – and I think it does. It's like, well, if you're busy, you must be productive.
Just be making money, yeah.
Right, and we think the two of those are connected. They're
actually not. And not only that, I mean, I ran with entrepreneur groups for a while, right? And for them, it's almost like a badge of honor. We tell the stories in horror, right? Like you were gone 42 weeks out of the year. Right. I worked all but 3 weekends. But at the time, but in those circles, that's almost like a badge of honor. Like you're a heavy grinder. You're grinding along. You're doing the work, growing the firm. And, here's the thing. A lot of them aren't growing the firm. It's not getting any bigger. Some of them are making a little bit more money, but usually not a lot. If you would map it out on a piece of paper, like, 2010, I had 3 weekends off and I made, $200,000. 2011, I had 3 weekends off and I made 10% more. I mean, was that worth it? Right? Are you really growing it, or could you step back and make some changes and grow the firm even more? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the issue is people have to see that you're the bottleneck. I mean, and busy is not productive, right?
No.
It's usually less productive.
It's way less. And the word I like to use is when I hear busy, I reframe it to lazy.
Yeah.
So if you say you're busy, what you just told me is that you're lazy. And when I do it to myself and I say, man, I'm so busy today, I'm like, oh, shit, I'm being lazy. And what I mean by that, and to flip the frame, it's like I'm being lazy on doing something productive. I'm allowing myself to get sucked into hustle, grinder, work mode and not business owner. I'm trying to actually build something mode, right? And you guys listening as you're growing your firm, that's one of the hardest transitions you have to make is mentally letting go of the busy work that you shouldn't be doing and shifting it into a mapped out process that's productive, right? Where we're starting to actually build systems. Like Shane, you and I were just talking just a few minutes ago, and I'm like, hey, I need we're doing something with your intake. And I'm like, I need like basically your KPIs, the data on them. And you're like, oh, well, I'll just have Josh send you the entire file because we have literally everything mapped out, all KPIs, all goods, all coaching, right? Because you built a system, process, and routine so that the organization itself could function, not with you being the guy who was doing all the busy work and doing all the work and being the guy.
And I mean, I think an argument can be made is that if you won't do the stuff to grow the business and you're just doing the work in the business, it's actually immature. And because and that's hard for me to think about, is because it's very ego gratifying to come in and take the sales call, right? And close the deal. Or you've got the angry client and it comes to you and you calm them down and you're the hero again. I mean, there's a lot of ego in being the hero and solving everything, but it's basically, I would say, immature, right? Because you're not building a real business. You're doing ego gratifying work that's not really helpful to your business. It's not productive. It's just busy work.
No. And in the short term, you get an ego fix. You do. You for sure. No, there's no doubt. I've been in plenty of situations where I have taken over a sales process at some point, and I've come in and then I've shifted the whole thing and turned a no into a yes, right? And we've all probably done that. And when that happens, dude, you feel amazing.
Yeah.
Like you're like, dude, I am literally the greatest.
Yeah.
Like, I praise me. And you're telling everybody about it, and all your team is like, wow, that was amazing. You're the best closer ever. And the problem is, by doing that, what do we train our people to do, Shane?
Yeah, to give it to you when it's hard, right? And to give it to you when to come be the savior, which means they're not really responsible, really. I mean, they're just the warm-up. I mean.
And the hard part, here's the rub. And in Chapter 3, we hit this heavily, but this is the rub. Well, what's the alternative? What if I lose the deal? Why can't
you're going to lose some? That's the thing.
I know,
right?
but that's why we don't do it. Because we sit there and we're like, dude, I can't. There's money. This might be worth $5,000.
And
I did $10,000.
And I had somebody years ago, and I don't remember who it was, say, you're never going to get your closers or what. If you're a good closer and you train people on your team to close for you, they're never going to be as good as you, right? But if they're 70 or 80% as good as you, and you've got two of them, they can close more than you can. They're up by 40%.
Yep.
Or they're up by 60%. And that's at 2, not 3 or 4 or 5. So
because no matter how great you are, even if you were at 100% close rate, there's only so many calls you can take.
Right.
Which means you can't scale marketing, you can't scale the leads coming in because you're the one that has to answer the phone, and you even if it's 100%, cool, you can't be on the call all day, and even if you are, that still caps you at some point.
Right.
To where that scalability, so even bringing people in that are half as good as you, but you can train them up on that skill. Now, well, you can hire 10 of those people, and they're now doing 10 times the volume you were.
Right, and that rings true for most things in the legal profession. I mean, most offices, there's stuff. There's always some stuff the lawyers got to do, but usually that list is smaller than lawyers think, right? Yeah. I'm the only one who can do this. Really? You're the only one who can do it? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny. I think it's just because we're human beings. We're super arrogant. And being an attorney,
we're probably super arrogant. I mean, right?
Because you've made it. I mean, a whole career off of arguing your point. Yeah. Which means you're trying to be right all the time, which you probably are a lot of times. So then you are right all the time, and it's just so there's this level of like, okay. So it makes sense. It's totally this is the sticking point that most people don't see, and you will not let go of the immediate moment of, well, I'm going to make money doing this, or this is the thing, I have to save it. I've got to be the one. You won't let go of that to actually allow yourself to build into this productive space to where you're developing systems and teams that actually can pull this off. And here's what I would dare say: as good as you think you are. And I'm not saying that you're not good, right? All of you guys listening, as good as you think you are, I can promise you there's somebody else who only focuses on that one thing that they're actually better than you.
They are.
And that's right. And we want to find those people.
You want to find them and get them working for you, right? I mean, that's kind of like, I mean, I talk to lawyers who have small firms who do all their own SEO and they write all their own content. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, like, well, it's the best stuff. I get the best results. Do you? I mean, what kind of leash are you adding to your workload? I mean,
yeah. Well, just that alone. Yeah. Well, that alone is a great one because there's a lot of busy work in marketing, right? There's a lot of things that you have to do. There's a lot of iterations, right? So you launch an ad, and then you look at that ad, and then you create the control off the ad, and then you have to start testing things. Let's do a different title here. Let's do a different title here. Let me ask you this. Do you think as a law firm owner, you have enough time, energy, and effort to give that just specific project I just talked about full-time effort?
No, well, no, clearly you can't. And
there's no way.
And that also, I think what's important too is to realize that also takes you learning a new skill, which is figuring out. First, you got to learn the basics of marketing, which I think most lawyers should know the basics.
Yeah.
But then you've got to learn all the testing and the processes and all of that stuff to effectively do that. And while you're doing that, you're not servicing your clients. You're not making your firm better. You're not becoming a better lawyer. You're not doing any of those things. You're becoming a better market tester, which you can outsource that to people who that's what they do all day long, every day. And I don't know why you think you're going to get better at it than somebody who does it all day long, every single day.
I'm curious of what you think on this. My thought is it's money. It's got to be, meaning they don't want to spend it.
Yeah,
because that's what I've watched. Is they're like, well, I can do this. Oh, it doesn't take that long, especially with AI now. It's like, oh, I could do this with AI, and I'll just do the AI thing and blah blah blah. Well, so it's like they don't want to spend the cash at the beginning because
they don't. And the idea though is, and there's free stuff on YouTube, there's books and all that, but all that takes. I mean, how long does it take to read a 200-page book? And read it and understand it, and then take action on it. And let's say 10 hours.
Yeah, you just described a unicorn, by the way. Because most people don't do shit with the book they read.
All right. Well, or watch a bunch of YouTube videos, right? But let's say you spend 10 hours learning how to do that, and you're an attorney and you bill out at $200 an hour. That's $2,000 right there. For you to have this minimum level of competency, assuming you're competent in 10 hours, which that's a tough sell. Yeah, but you spent 2 hours or $2,000 of your time there. Okay, if it takes you 20 hours, now you're at $4,000. Could you have paid somebody to do it at $4,000 who's going to do it better than you can do it at that amount of time? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, and are you going to stay up to date on all the things, the changes and the updates and all that? The answer is no. I mean, so, Trevor, as we move towards closing, I think the moment I would tell our listeners to watch for is when they're telling their wife why they missed the dinner or why they had to cancel the event, and they're saying, well, honey, I saved this case, and it's a really good case, and we're going to make a lot of money on it, which is why I had to do it. And when your spouse is like, oh, that's great, and just rolls right on, right? And you see she doesn't care, your kids don't care, and kids are different because, 6-year-olds get upset over a little, you know what I mean, over the wrong 6 or 8, but when your spouse does it, who's a grown adult, who knows about money and knows that you've got to pay your bills and all that, when they look at you with absolute disappointment and no longer caring, that's going to tell you that you've done it a whole bunch, and if you're not careful, you're going to get a change one way or the other.
Yeah. It just won't be the change you want, right? Or the change you feel like you chose. Yeah. I mean, it's a horrific outcome, and this is the key, guys, is figuring this out and figuring to understand. So if you don't have a copy of the book, The Invisible Ceiling, go get it. Right, we just covered chapter 3, but this book right here is going to dive into. Really, it's the growth pattern and modeled after your growth, Shane, of Shane Smith Law, to some extent, right? But the stories and narratives, it's an easy read. Grab a copy of it. We're giving it to you for free. Like I said, you can get the book in this description here, wherever it is you're listening to this, whether it's on iTunes, podcast, Spotify, Instagram, don't care where it's at, but you can go get a copy of that there. And also, for those of you who qualify, and not everybody does, I'm very aware of that, but we are offering up a free deep dive conversation to actually dive in, and so we can really help you uncover where you are the bottleneck inside of your firm and kind of give you an action plan on what are the steps forward to dig out of it. Because I understand it can become very overwhelming when you're sitting there in this environment and then you're like, okay, great. So I'm the bottleneck. I'm in the way. What am I supposed to do? Because I've got 73 plates spinning right now. Do I have to let them go? Like, what do I do here? So we can help you guys with that. There's a simple process to get that. But, again, you can find all that information out in the link below. If you got value from today's show, go ahead and give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. That's how this show grows. That's how we can create value for other attorneys just like you. That being said, brings us to a wrap. Have a fantastic rest of your day. We're out.